Good evening, friends, and shalom, and welcome to this episode of the Watchdog. I am your host, CJ Cox, here to tell you that we are living in biblical times. I want to go ahead and give a brief shout out to anybody who is currently in the live chat. Shalom, and thank you for being here. I do see Cryptomaria was at least here earlier. Not sure if you still are, but if you still are, nonetheless, shalom, and thank you for being here. Want to go ahead and go through some channel housekeeping here real quick before we move forward. First things first, obviously want to let you guys know about what we have coming in the future, which is not a whole lot. We are going to finish this week with a episode every week, or every weekday rather. So today is Thursday. Tomorrow will be the last one of this particular week, and then we're going to move back to our regular 3 times a week programming, at least hopefully, right, Lord willing. Also, if I actually manage to not suck, because that's one of the biggest problems with here is just me absolutely sucking and not doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing. So hopefully we'll be able to get all that done. Obviously, want to remind you guys, please do like and share this video. Please get this out to all of the different social media platforms which you frequent. Of course, what good is a message without an audience to hear it? Please consider joining Gab, Parler, Minds, or Facebook, or excuse me, not Facebook, or BitChute/Rumble. Those first 3 are alternative social media platforms that are equivalents to what we would be familiar with in Twitter. Really cool websites. I do use them all myself. You can definitely follow me on those websites if you're interested. And of course, as I've said before, the only way that we can actually manage to effectively fight the big tech overlords is to utilize their competition. So please get on Gab, Parler, or Minds, whichever you prefer, if not all 3 of them, and utilize those alternative social media platforms for your benefit and for the benefit of your nation and your posterity. Also, by the way, you can go ahead and follow your boy there and share this video. Nonetheless, also remember to please get on BitChute and Rumble. Especially for those who are fans of this channel, you're going to want to get on BitChute and Rumble because our days are numbered, just as are the days of many other conservative YouTubers who are trying to push conservative political content. It is not popular amongst the overlords. It might be popular amongst the audience, but it is not popular amongst the overlords. They don't like it. I had my first video taken down before I had even hit the 40 subscriber mark, and I'm still only at the 44 subscriber mark. So they're not even worried about whether or not you're a big deal. They're really just worried about whether or not you're producing content that they don't like. I am. So if you guys like this content, if you guys want to see more of this content, if you guys want to make sure to keep up with it, just in case it ever goes down at any point in time, please remember to not only get a BitChute/Rumble account, but also follow the synagogue on that account. It takes a while for our videos to get up. My Tuesday episode is still not actually up, even though it's Thursday. Only the Monday episode is. And unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to be for a minute when it comes to these websites, because they're not new, right? Or excuse me, they're not new. They're not big, is what I meant, right? They have not yet had the capacity to actually improve into a Facebook-esque, YouTube-esque, Twitter-esque company where you have little to no bugs whatsoever, right? It costs millions and millions, in fact, sometimes billions in the case of YouTube. I'm not sure about Facebook, but billions in the case of YouTube dollars to maintain that level of quality. So they'll get there, but they're not there now, right? And part of the way they're going to get there, by the way, is by us utilizing those products. But again, if you want to make sure you're keeping up with this show, just in case we ever get banned, definitely want to go to BitChute or Rumble and follow there. Lastly but not least, of course, I want to remind you guys to subscribe if you have not done so, and hit that bell to get notified every time we go live. We certainly do appreciate you doing that there. And I see Kelvin Quayle in the live chat. Thank you and shalom for being here. Cryptomaria, you actually are currently talking about or what you commented on, if you're still here, is actually my pre-article discussion for today. which is, I don't know it as Happy Truth and, or excuse me, not happy. I don't know it as Truth and Reconciliation Day. I do know it is Orange Shirt Day. And for those of you who don't know, in the nation of Canada, which for most of my listeners is going to be the northern neighbor, but obviously for some of my neighbors will be your own home, and or some of my listeners rather will be your own home. And I think at least some of my listeners are actually from outside of the North American continent. But at any rate, today is Orange Shirt Day in the nation of Canada. And Orange Shirt Day is a holiday created in about 2013, meant to basically not celebrate, but in a way memorialize the cultural genocide of indigenous communities, namely the First Nations, Métis, and various groups which we colloquially call Eskimo, but which are more accurately referred to by their tribal distinctions, such as Inuit and Aleut, and so on. Yupik is another popular one up there. And basically, the holiday, like I said, is meant to raise awareness and meant to get people to actually learn about what had gone on, meant to, in a way, memorialize, not in a positive way, of course, but in a way of, hey, we need to remember that this happened. All of the negative things that occurred in Canada, and specifically in regards to the Indian residential school system, which of course was relatively popular in the news this year because of the fact that in Canada, a residential school was found with about 215 bodies of Indigenous children buried outside of it. So you can certainly see why this is something that is a big deal. Now, I don't actually own an orange shirt. Otherwise, I would have my lovely mug on the screen and you would see my orange shirt. But nonetheless, I did want to briefly mention this holiday. And I did want to say, I don't know if you would necessarily say a happy Orange Shirt Day, but certainly hope that you guys utilize this day for what it is for, which is remembering the atrocities that the different Western European governments have actually committed. And I would like to add, even though I'm not sure that this is an official part of the holiday, a time for reconciliation, right? A time for reconciliation. There's no reason for cultures to go on hating each other when the people who have committed the crimes are long and buried, right? So Orange Shirt Day, in my opinion, more than being a holiday, and of course I'm not Canadian, but more than being a holiday for remembrance, more than being a holiday for awareness, more than being a holiday to say, hey, we're sorry, I think it is also, most importantly, a holiday for reconciliation that says, hey, we are Canadians, you are Canadians, let's be Canadians together. And that's something I think that we would very much like to see here in the United States as well, right? It's often the liberals who get this talking point of racial reconciliation, but we should not allow them to have a monopoly on it. Quite frankly, we should be people who are all about racial reconciliation, who are all about reconciliation of peoples in any way, right? Because we are a people who want to see peace. We are a people who want to see Christ glorified. And I know that not everybody who watches this particular program is a Christian, but a lot of them, in fact, most of them are. So at least those of you who are will recognize why I would want to see Christ glorified and why I think reconciliation between enemies is a way to do that. But nonetheless, let me go ahead and grab a drink of my coffee real quick, and then let's jump right into the articles for today. All righty. So, we're not going to talk actually, I didn't put my headliner in quite yet, so I guess you guys don't even know what the headliner was going to be. My headliner was going to be about the New York governor's incredibly cultic language, and I'll make sure to edit that as we, after the video is up. But the first thing we're going to talk about is actually a judge has allowed a pedophilia case, a child abuse case against Pornhub to move forward. And this, my friends, could be absolutely huge. Now, for those of you who do not know, which regular watchers of this program will not be in this category, but for those of you who do not know, Pornhub earlier this year, which Pornhub, by the way, is the largest pornography website on the planet. Pornhub earlier this year was busted, basically, having a some level of alliance with a pornography company by the name of Girls Do Porn. This pornography company was cold busted, kidnapping girls, forcing girls to do scenes, telling girls they were going to get non-nude, non-erotic modeling gigs, only to have them in a room with no way out, having hardcore sex on camera, of course. They were having children in their videos. By the way, I'd like to specify something for you. I do not believe 16 and 17-year-olds are children. So while they were in those videos, and while that is illegal and disgusting, that's not what I mean by children. I mean pubescent or prepubescent children, childs, right? Not teenagers who it's still illegal to sleep with and therefore still disgusting. No, children, right? Were actually on these videos. And the company was busted, cold busted, right? They were taken down, and a bunch of people started noticing, hey, you know, this company has a friendship, has an alliance, has a kinship with this incredibly large pornography company. Video streaming platform is more accurate. That is Pornhub, right? And Pornhub started getting a bunch of people talking to them saying, hey, you guys, you have no way to verify the models are willing. You have no need to even verify as far as like your channel rules are concerned. Uploader even is. For a long time, if you took a picture of yourself, even a provocative picture of yourself with nothing on, right, and just simply had a picture of your face and some sort of writing that was demonstrating your name, right, which could literally just be a piece of paper that you wrote your name on, right? If you sent that picture into Pornhub, it was good enough, and you could start uploading videos. The picture didn't even have to be you, right? Didn't matter. Good enough for them. And you know, they start pointing out all these different things, like, you know, you can use the Spanish word menor on Pornhub, which means minor, and you get a lot of results. At least that was true at the time. And all these other different things, right? And so finally, there was a bunch of pressure mounting on the company, and they ended up deleting after they said that they didn't actually have any provocative comment. And by provocative, I don't mean pornographic, but in a way that it is illegal, right? Content on their channel. They said, no, we don't have any, nothing to see here. Then they deleted over a million hours of content and said, all right, see, now we don't actually have anything of a perverse nature on this website. And again, when I say of a perverse nature, I mean as far as they would be concerned, not as far as we would be concerned. I understand pornography in general is perverse. That's actually part of the reason I focus on these stories. But nonetheless, but what was that, right? When they decided to change their rules, when they decided to remove all these videos, when they decided to ban a bunch of, quote, content creators on the website, what effectively were they doing? Well, they were admitting that what they had said earlier, that namely they were not involved, had no knowledge of these egregious sex trafficking, pedophilic, disgusting crimes. But then after saying, hey, we had no knowledge, we weren't aware, it's not on our website, all that kind of stuff, they then find all the websites and all the content creators and delete them, implying that they were aware of where they are, and they did know what they were doing, and they did know the content was on the platform. Well, other people have noticed this, and as a result, Pornhub is being sued. Again, those who are longtime watchers of the show and watch consistently, you already know this because I've been keeping up with this case since Pornhub was originally, thrown into the news cycle, so to speak. And for those of you who might wonder, by the way, why are you interested, Jay, in this situation? I'll get to it a little bit at the end of the article, but I just want to say that it is my opinion that pornography is one of the worst demons we have on this planet today. Not the worst. There are many things like, obviously gang violence and stuff like that, right? There's a lot of things that are worse. But porn degrades human beings, specifically the girls involved, right? in a way that almost nothing else on the planet does, and throws men to their lusts to basically burn until they burn out at an incredibly young, husked age of 23, 24 years old, because they've been watching pornography for the last decade. It's also highly addictive, and it's, involved. The people who operate in it are involved in sex trafficking crimes and all this kind of stuff. There are a lot of reasons that you should be not only against pornography, but actively involved in the anti-pornography business, right? Because it's a dangerous, dangerous industry. But nonetheless, we jump into the article here. Judge denies majority of Pornhub's bid to toss child porn suit out. And I actually didn't get to the conclusion of my statement. I was going to say, so as we get to the article here, we have seen now that, these guys are being sued by different people who are saying, hey, you had a lot to do with my abuse. You allowed this video to stay on, all that other kind of stuff. A judge has now said that Pornhub's argument to toss the lawsuit out is not good, and it has been denied. And so this is, of course, a huge win for the anti-pornography movement, a huge win for the anti-trafficking movement, a huge win for anybody out there who wishes to see women and girls taken care of as the daughters of God that they truly are, and not as these sexual objects that are, quote, worshipped, but really are relegated into this position of being nothing more than a chew toy. Judge denies majority of Pornhub's bid to toss child porn suit. This is from Priscilla DeGregory from New York Post, and it is originally written September the 7th, 2021. Get a drink of my coffee here real quick. All right. A California judge. Yes, a California judge, right? Like, Dead Clark is right twice a day, apparently. A California judge ruled Friday that the majority of a teen's child pornography and sex trafficking suit against embattled X-rated purveyor Pornhub can move forward. The teenager filed suit anonymously under the name Jane Doe in February, alleging that Pornhub and its parent company MindGeek profited off the video taken of her when she was just 16. And again, this was by the, I believe by the company Girls Do Porn, but I'm not 100% sure if this one was actually associated with that. But that was the thing that busted this whole thing open, right? And started revealing, hey, there are traffic time, and they're involved in, like, the thing about Girls Do Porn, you guys got to realize, is this was a big porn company, right? Like, got a Wikipedia page, got their own website, getting awards at whatever their version of the Oscars is actually called, right? Like, this is a big company. They were, starting to talk to big name stars to actually get them actually, in their videos and stuff like that. It wasn't like some random videos with a couple hundred views on it, right? That wasn't what we were talking about. And what it ended up revealing, like I said earlier, was that there was millions and millions of hours of this hellacious content actually on this website. But nonetheless, jumping back in. Her ex-boyfriend posted the videos to Pornhub and another MindGeek site, RedTube, in December 2019, with one of the videos featured on the latter site's front page receiving 30,000 views, her suit said. MindGeek, which has been sued by dozens of other alleged victims, asked a judge to toss the suit, claiming immunity since it didn't create or post the video. This is that Section 230 stuff that you often hear in big tech circles, right? When somebody is censoring comments or videos or something on Facebook or something along those lines, one of the arguments that comes against these people for their censorship, typically from conservatives, but not always, is, hey, Section 230 says that basically you guys are not to be held accountable for anything we post because you're a platform, but that also implies that we are allowed to post on your platform, right? Basically, you are not being chastised for the content you put on here. You're not being held accountable for the content that you put on here because this is a platform and you're allowing other people to put on the content, right? Well, here we're seeing kind of the reverse of that, right? Whereas the conservatives are going after Section 230 protections. Now you see MindGeek here actually utilizing their Section 230 protections and trying to use it to their advantage, right? Saying, hey, we didn't post this. We can't be held ethically or legally responsible for this video. It was posted by somebody else. They are the ones who are to be held ethically and legally responsible. They are the ones who are to be punished legally. They are the ones who you should be talking to, not us, the company. MindGeek. Excuse me. By the way, in case you're wondering why RedTube is not something that is common to talk about in these conversations, the main reason is that it does not seemingly have a history of posting videos of trafficked or minor girls, right? So that is why there. Obviously, it's still disgusting because it's a pornography website, but there is a big difference between being a whore legally and ethically, or maybe I shouldn't say ethically, but consensually, right? And being somebody who is forced at the point of a gun to do whore things. Anyways, California federal judge Cormac Carney found that the victim sufficiently alleged that MindGeek, in fact, did act as a content creator, a legal distinction that wouldn't allow it to claim immunity in the case for a slew of reasons. The site asks users to fill out surveys about what type of video they prefer. It allegedly uses coded language for child pornography to ensure that content is visible to the right fans. And the site allegedly tells users how to name their videos in certain ways that target individuals interested in child pornography. Truth to this, okay? Now, there are ways in which this is certainly not true. For example, the company and all pornography companies, and indeed all modeling companies, and indeed all music and acting companies, and basically any company that is trying to get you to stare at a chick who's hot, they're all obsessed with youth, right? They're all obsessed with youth. And that's because men and women both are attracted to youth. Now, when I say youth here, I'm obviously talking about not teenagers, although they technically are teenagers, but women who are on the high end of teen and men who are on the high end of teen, right? 18, 19 years of age. In some cultures, that obviously can go down to 16 years of age, but you still get the point, right? It is the latter teen years that they're talking about when they're trying to get people to watch these certain videos. Now, obviously, that is not illegal. In the case of the 16, 17, it would be, but that I wasn't referring to America when I was saying that. At any rate, obviously, that's not illegal. Obviously, that's not non-consensual. Obviously, while there is a bunch of issues that we could go into with that, such as how that does kind of lead to people becoming more and more and more infatuated with youth until eventually they do want to go overboard. There's a lot of things you could say about it, but the point is advertising teen pornography, right, isn't actually advertising child pornography, right? And so in that sense, there's definitely some pornography activists who will say, hey, being for the teen category or trying to endorse or advertise the teen category, that makes you somebody who's advertising child porn. That's definitely not true. But what is true is that there still are terms that at the time, at least, it's not the case anymore, so I've been told at least, you could go onto these websites and you could look up certain keywords that would actually pull up child pornography. For example, menor. Menor is a Spanish word meaning minor, right? You look it up, you could get lists upon lists upon lists of child pornography, and sometimes even playlists where they specifically called them things that, like jailbait, for example. For those of you who are not aware of the terminology, jailbait is when a woman is incredibly attractive and is somebody who's trying to sleep with you or flirting with you or something like that, but is younger than the age of 18. Well, of the definition that they be younger than the age of 18, then that means you can look up on a porn website women who are younger than the age of 18. You see where I'm going here, right? Some of them are about to be mentioned here in the next paragraph. Well, I don't know if this is considered to be a paragraph, but anyways. For example, the suit claimed that MindGeek site promotes under of young boys. These things can definitely be found on the site, or at least they could. The judge tossed 3 other claims in the suit contributed to the creation of child pornography on Carney's decision said. And then the judge tossed 3 other claims in the suit for technical reasons while denying in substantial part mind Sorry, friends. Looks like we jumped out there a little bit. My apologies. Where we had left off, where we had left off here. Let me go ahead and get to that. I apologize for that. I haven't been having internet issues, and now all of a sudden I'm again having internet issues. But nonetheless, we were here. The teen suit also accused the site of being on notice about the rampant issue of child pornography and child sexual exploitation on its pages, even promoting the content and trying to hide the is already involved in degrading and abusing women. Stop profiting off of it, profiting off of a certain element of that abuse simply because it abuses and degrades women. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? As good as it should be, but I do apologize, friends. That is going to be really frustrating. Let me know if it is choppy for you or if anything else here is not actually working to the best of its ability, and I will try to solve the problems here in a moment. But nonetheless, let's continue. Hopefully a trial to vindicate the rights of victims of child sex trafficking, end quote. Her lawyer, I'm totally going to say this wrong. I apologize. Subramanian told the Post, quote, there's just an epidemic of images and videos of underage victims being posted to sites like MindGeeks, and that is what this case is about, end quote. And 100% true, and I am personally very pleased to see that this case is moving forward. MindGeek responded in a statement that it was disappointed with the judge's decision and emphasized that it doesn't allow illegal content on its websites. Quote, any suggestion that we allow illegal content on our platform is categorically and factually inaccurate, end quote, MindGeek said in a statement. Quote, we are vehemently opposed to the posting of any illegal content and have instituted a comprehensive industry-leading trust and safety policy to identify and eradicate illegal material from our community, end quote. MindGeek said it took down the video as soon as it learned that it was posted by the victim's ex-boyfriend as revenge porn, and it electronically fingerprinted it to ensure the video wasn't posted again. Now, of course, this might be true for this particular case because they were busted in it, right? But it doesn't really matter. And the big reason it doesn't matter is because to this day, revenge porn is a category that you can actually look up on Pornhub. In fact, there's even a popular pornography website that is called GF Revenge. I wonder what that could possibly be about. And it's still up and running. And they still got partnerships with Pornhub and all these other different pornography companies. This is just what this industry is, right? It's an industry, excuse me, built upon subjugation, degradation, exploitation, objectification of women and girls. That's what it is. You think they care that some 16-year-old got screwed on their website? Pfft, we're making money. What do I care? I being the MindGeek employees, right? That's just what this industry is, friends. There's no such thing as ethical porn. It is not real. And if you are somebody, by the way, who is struggling with pornography, know that there are options to help you. Know that there are options that are non-judgmental. Know that the Lord is a forgiving Lord. But also keep in the back of your mind this. Every time you look at those videos, you are contributing. And I know you don't want to, but you are contributing to the degradation, exploitation, objectification of women and girls, and sometimes in ways that are a lot more violent than you think. Sometimes in ways that are actually forced penetrative, post this video online even though she's only 15, that kind of stuff. That's the industry this is. And that's not all they do, by the way. They also prey upon women who are abused, women who are psychologically distraught, women who are easy to convince to get naked in front of a camera, right? And if you don't believe me, you can look up and do it on Wikipedia, please, so that you don't see, anything that you don't want to see. But look up the biographies of Adriana Chechnik, of Mia Malkova, however you say her last name, right? Of Jenna Jameson, Linda Lovelace, Alexis Texas, any of these girls, right? Any of these popular porn stars, go look up their biography on Wikipedia. You know what you find? Drug abuse. You find people who were abused in their homes, people who didn't have parents, people who ran with criminals, people who were having sex at incredibly young age with incredibly old young ages with incredibly old people, people who were stripping before they were even 16 years of age. That is who the porn industry preys upon for their, quote, starlets. So on its very foundation, this is objectification, exploitation of women and girls. But on top of that, you have the fact that these companies are actively involved in the perpetration of minor sex abuses, of trafficking women, of posting videos without consent of the people being recorded, and so on. It's what this industry is. And if you have a problem with it, I implore you, please, your conscience does not want this on it. Believe me. So remember what it is that you're doing every time you pull one of these videos up and stay away from it. There are people who can help. There's Fight the New Drug. There's Covenant Eyes. There are just friends and family. There are tons of people who can help out with this, but stay away from this trash. Quote, the court's legal conclusions and inferences are disappointing and inconsistent with precedent, but we understand that at this point, the court is required to assume all allegations are true, end quote, the statement said. Quote, we are confident that when the court has the opportunity to consider the actual facts, including that MindGeek did not contribute to the creation of the content as or at issue, or knowingly participate in or benefit from any alleged trafficking, the court will dismiss the remaining claims for lack of merit, end quote, MindGeek's statement concluded. MindGeek has been brought to court by others who claim its site features countless videos of women being raped and forced into porn without consenting to the release of the videos. And of course, we've been talking about that for quite some time here on the Watchdog. So that's that article there. I think that it is a good piece of news. Obviously, it's terrible that this is occurring, but it is good to see that people are going to be held accountable for it. And so I certainly appreciate that. Moving on to the New York governor's incredibly cultic actions and language. New York Governor Hochul has said vaccines are from God and sends out her own apostles, her words, not ours, to push the jab. Hochul claimed the unvaccinated are disobeying God. Yes, she says the vaccines are from God, that not taking them is disobeying God, and that the people who she is sending out to convince people to get jabbed are her, quote, apostles. This should be fun. All right. You gotta love Tucker's face there, right? He talks about how the cult of coronavirus has become its own religion. We might actually watch that video because it is an important video, but it depends on how much time we have. Governor Kathy Hochul, Democrat of New York, preached from a pulpit in Brooklyn, which, by the way, women should not be preaching. But anyways, on Sunday, that citizens should be thankful to God for the COVID-19 vaccines, which she claimed were divinely inspired. Hochul, who assumed office in August after Andrew Cuomo resigned amid allegations of sexual misconduct, also urged her listeners to be her apostles by convincing their friends to get vaccinated, an act she said demonstrates the love of Jesus commanded, or the love that Jesus rather commanded his followers to exhibit. Quote, "We are not through this pandemic," Hochul said during her homily at the Christian Cultural Center, a non-denominational megachurch. Quote, "I wish we were, but I prayed a lot to God during this time, and you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. This is from God to us, and we must say, thank you, God. Thank you." Now, if that was the end of this, I wouldn't actually have a problem, right? Because obviously God does get the credit. God absolutely, positively does get the credit for everything positive that we have happening here on this planet, including things that were done through his vessels, namely human beings. So if she was simply saying, hey, God answered our prayers, he gave us an awesome piece of medical technology that we are now going, well, I don't know if medical technology is the right terminology to use, but that we are now going to utilize to help keep us safe, have us live longer, and we praise the Lord for that, right? If it was just that, I might disagree just because I don't think the vaccine is safe, but I wouldn't have problems with it, right? We wouldn't be talking about it on a Watchdog. But that's not it. It does, in fact, continue. Hochul then showed off her necklace that indicated her vaccination status before alleging those who refuse the COVID-19 vaccine aren't listening to God and what God wants, right? So now you can start to see why we are having problems. They aren't listening to God if they aren't getting the vaccine. It is what God wants, and you are being disobedient, says Governor Hochul, whoever the heck that is. And obviously I know who that is, but what I mean is in the sense that she's going to start telling you now what God has to say, right? Anyways, quote, "I need you to be my apostles," she said. One more time. "I need you to be my apostles," she said. "I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another, and how do you show that love, but to care about each other enough to say, please get the vaccine because I love you and I want you to live. I want our kids to be safe when they're in schools. I want to be safe when you go to a doctor's office or to a hospital and are treated by somebody. You don't want to get the virus from them. You're already sick or you wouldn't be there." End quote. She wants them to be her apostles. She thinks you're being disobedient to God if you don't actually want to get the vaccine. This is weird cultic language, friends, and it's not the only cultic language you see from the New World Order types, right? The globalist types. For example, Paulette Jordan in the 2018 gubernatorial election here in Idaho was talking about how prophecies existed of her starting an anti-Trump revolution in Idaho. And we saw Andrew Cuomo, the former New York governor, talking about how, we had brought the numbers down and God didn't do that. It was all us and we're so awesome. And of course, now he's not even the governor of the United States, of the new state of New York anymore, right? So, God had the last laugh there, didn't he, buddy? Anyways, you've been seeing these people talking about how, they want to divorce or break up with people over the COVID vaccine. People talking about, how obviously saying things like this is answered prayer from God and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, it is weird, kind of quasi-religious language that is being utilized, and now Hochul's just running with it, right? She's just like, yeah, absolutely. This is absolutely positively beyond any shadow of a doubt a divine godsend. And if you don't actually take it, you're being disobedient to God, right? That's what she's saying. Now, maybe, I don't know, she's got like some kind of direct hotline to God that me and you just don't have. I don't know. I guess I'm interested, right? But nonetheless, this is what they are pushing. Quote, and here is my promise to you, my friends. I will use the inspiration of God in my life and fight for you every single day as governor and beyond. Hochul added, Hochul has spoken dismissively regarding those, who would seek a religious exemption to the COVID-19 vaccine. Quote, I'm not aware of a sanctioned religious exemption from any organized religion, end quote, she told reporters during a September 16th press briefing. In fact, quote, in fact, they are encouraging the opposite. Everybody from the Pope down is encouraging people to get vaccinated. So apparently you can only have a religious exemption if your leaders say there's a religious exemption. I don't know. That's what she seems to believe, at least, but whatever. Hochul said her administration will defend the right of New York to ensure that anyone is in a healthcare facility, can meet a patient, and that patient does not have to worry about when they go in, and that patient does not have to worry when they go in there for healthcare, that they're going to contract a virus from one of the people that are supposed to protect their health. Is that the whole article? I guess it is, right? So we're going to go ahead and briefly watch this. It's only about, it's 9 minutes. That's longer than I thought. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I do have to briefly go to the bathroom. That's part of the reason I want to watch it. So nonetheless, I'm going to press play here. Tucker's got some interesting points. And yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and mute my microphone real quick.
Freedom of speech is under attack.
Go ahead and mute my microphone real quick.
Freedom of
always find a way to persevere.
We as conservatives have ultimate faith. In people.
The birthplace of Jesus.
Give it to God. He is doing this for a reason. This is about veterans.
There is a way to find justice.
Absolutely beautiful.
And it all leads to this.
At home with me, Paula Dean.
We should learn from the history.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Is God dead? That's the question that Time magazine famously asked way back in 1966 when Time magazine mattered. The answer then and now is no, God is not dead. But a lot of the people who believed in him are dead, turns out. Not so long ago, this was an enthusiastically Christian country. As recently as 2009, 77% of Americans told pollsters they consider themselves to be believing Christians. Then in just 10 years, over the course of the Obama administration, that number dropped by 12 points. Over the same period, the number of atheists and self-identified non-religious people in America jumped dramatically. And that was before COVID. Politicians used the pandemic across the country to close thousands of churches and throw Christians in prison for practicing their faith. Here was the scene, for example, last fall in Idaho, police arresting a congregation for singing hymns outdoors. Praise him, all creatures here below.
Trust in chariots and others trust in horses.
Socially distanced hymn singing outside. So what exactly was these people's crimes? That tape will be studied by future generations of historians to try and figure out what was going on. What did these people do wrong? Well, they publicly affirmed their belief in a power higher than government. Not allowed. Fewer and fewer Americans do that or even think to. But that does not mean, and this is the critical point, that does not mean this has become a secular country. There are no secular countries, just as there are no secular people. Everybody believes in something. All of us are born with the need to worship. The question is what? So no, America's not lost its religion, it's just replaced its religion. What's dying is the faith that created Western civilization, Christianity. In its place is a new creed. And like all religions, it has its own sacraments, its own sacred texts. It's the cult of coronavirus. Kathy Hochul is one of the high priestesses of this new faith. She's the governor of New York. Now, no one voted for her as governor, and that seems odd for a politician. But it's typical for a faith leader. No one voted for Jim Jones either. Yesterday, Kathy Hochul held her first service as the leader of the New York Diocese of the Corona cult. Around her neck, she wore not a cross, that's yesterday's symbol, but instead a vaccination necklace. That necklace signified to the faithful gathered that Hochul has ascended to the select priesthood of those who have taken full intravenous communion. Listen to Bishop Hochul preach.
And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones, but you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know this. You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another. And how do you show that love? But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live.
How do you show your love to one another? The old way was to visit people, say, in the hospital as they died. That's no longer allowed. The new way to show your love is to get the vax. God himself wants you to take the vaccine. I need you to be my apostles, Hochul thundered. No one comes to the Father except through the shot. Sinners in the hands of an angry healthcare worker. At the pulpit, Kathy Hochul, not super bright as you may have noticed, seems suddenly transformed. A transfiguration, if you will. Standing there, she wasn't merely a mediocre, unelected governor of a dying state with bad weather. No. Hochul was the vaccine messiah, preaching the undying word of St. Anthony Fauci. Can I get an amen, ladies and gentlemen? Now, it may sound unlikely to those of you used to the older faiths, but many are joining this new church. And for $39 right now on Amazon, you too can buy a sterling silver necklace that declares that you have been vaccinated. Literally declares it. Just spells out in cursive.
I'm not sure what exactly just happened. Were you guys able to see the whole thing? Man, I don't know what is going on with my internet, but it is like frustrating the heck out of me. Were you guys able to actually hear the video? Or did it cut out? It looks to me like it cut out. Go ahead and give me, I see Kelvy, Jamie, and Richard in the live chat. Please let me know, guys, if you were actually able to hear that. Okay, Kelvy says he could hear. Okay, that's good. It does appear Richard had some issues with the volume there. I'm going to go ahead and drop the article in the live chat because, well, yeah, it's just important. I don't think you should miss it. Oh, Richard says he could hear. Okay, so it must have just been low volume then. I have had, I don't know why, guys, but recently my StreamYard has been telling me things that are not true. For example, it's telling me my audio's knocked off, telling me I'm not live, telling me that I am cutting out, even though you guys have been able to hear me. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, but nonetheless, there's the link to the article. You notice it's interesting what Tucker was saying, though, since you guys did hear. It's not that this is simply a nation that is becoming more and more, quote, secular, right? It is that this is a nation that is just becoming religious in a different way, right? And personally, I think that he is a little naive to limit it simply to coronavirus. I think that wokeism in general is really the new religion of the left. And I have been convinced over time that perhaps progressive Christianity is indeed an entirely separate faith than our own. In fact, in many instances, people like Brendan Robertson don't even really affirm the death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord. So, of course, it's a different faith in that sense, right? We don't have the same holy book, we're not worshiping the same God, and we don't have the same foundation of faith. But those progressive Christians, you know, who they do share the same foundation of faith with, you know, who they do share the same, quote, holy texts, if you will, same beliefs, all that kind of stuff, right? You know what they do share that with? Well, the other progressives, the woke, right? This church of wokery that we seem to have established in the United States, Canada, and the rest of the world. To the point of where they're now saying, you know, they're calling people apostles when they go out for the jab to advertise for the jab. They are wearing necklaces saying, hey, I'm vaxxed, whether you used to wear cross necklaces or rosaries or something like that. Nope. Nowadays, you wear a necklace that says vaxxed in big golden letters, so on and so forth, right? And it's a very interesting thing to see, but it's not something that actually stops with that, right? I'm going to go ahead and go back to my shared screen because it's one thing to say weird and unpleasant and culty stuff that makes people suspicious of you. But is there actions that back that up? Is there reason for us to be suspicious of you according to what you do? And the answer to that question is absolutely when it comes to the New York governor. New York may tap National Guard, as in the armed military services, right, of New York, their militia. New York may tap National Guard to replace unvaccinated healthcare workers. Yes, they're going to actually replace those who refuse to get the vax with armed soldiers. Anyways, by the way, article here from Nathan Lane, Reuters.com, originally published September the 27th. Oh, no, so sorry, September the 26th. My bad. Anyways, New York Governor Kathy Hochul is considering employing the National Guard and out-of-state medical workers to fill hospital staffing shortages, with tens of thousands of workers possibly losing their jobs for not meeting a Monday deadline for mandated COVID-19 vaccinations. The plan, outlined in a statement from Hochul on Saturday, would allow her to declare a state of emergency to increase the supply of healthcare workers to include licensed professionals from other states and countries, as well as retired nurses. Hochul said the state was also looking at using National Guard officers with medical training to keep hospitals and other medical facilities adequately staffed. Some 16% of the state's 450,000 hospital staff, or roughly 72,000 workers, have not been fully vaccinated. Now, maybe I'm just bad at math. I don't know. But it seems to me like if you're trying to do a one-for-one replacement of soldiers for workers, that you'd have to get, I don't know, something near 72,000 National Guard soldiers to replace these people. Now, let's say you only got 1/10 of that. In fact, let's say you only got 1/10 of that rounded down to the nearest thousand. That would still be 7,000 troops that are now actively involved in your medical decisions. And these are the same people who are talking about, hey, if you don't get vaccinated, you shouldn't be able to buy or sell or eat or drink or go outside or have any sort of a medical, what would you call that? Where you just basically going able to see your doctor, right? Have any medical freedom, basically, right? Same people who were saying that are now saying, hey, we're going to replace 72,000 workers with soldiers. Because that's what the National Guard is. Don't get deceived, because sometimes they're out there, taking the trees that fall down if you're in South Dakota, or helping every now and then with a hurricane if you're in Louisiana. That's not what they are. They are soldiers. They are trained to fight, trained to kill. My uncle, fighting in the Nevada National Guard, found himself in Desert Storm killing people. That's what they are. They're soldiers. They're military, okay? This woman is saying she's going to replace 72,000 workers with military. And again, even less than 10% of that, 10% rounded down to the nearest thousand, is still 7,000 soldiers she apparently wants to deploy. That's dangerous, friends. That is beyond dangerous, in fact. This is the kind of thing which will absolutely get people killed at the hands of the state. And of course, we already know that the government, especially in New York, is willing to do these things because obviously that's one of the big things that we all hate Andrew Cuomo for, right? Obviously, they never called him out on it. It was the sexual harassment that he actually got called out on. And I'm not saying it's okay to sexually harass girls, but obviously murdering people is worse than calling somebody toots, okay? Sorry, it just is. Obviously, men should not be gawking at you. Men should not be using their position of power to abuse you, especially if it goes farther than that, like actually touching you or forcing you to do things. Obviously not cool. But murder, my friends, is a lot worse than calling somebody broad. I'm sorry, it just is. But let's ignore that. We'll only go after him for the fact that he said mean things about, or maybe inappropriate things would be a better way to put it, about women and girls, which he shouldn't have said. Again, I'm against it. And I do long for yesteryear when that was actually enough to kill your career. And I'm glad to an extent for some it is, because we should have our politicians being held to a high standard. However, it is much, much, much worse to murder someone. And he didn't just murder someone, he murdered thousands. He murdered thousands. Okay, so we already know that this government is willing to do these kinds of things. Why on earth would we not then fear when they are doing these kinds of things that we're seeing on the screen, talking about how this is God's will and talking about how we're going to replace unvaccinated frontline workers with soldiers, right? Absolutely absurd stuff, but nonetheless, we continue. Sorry, I got to scroll down here actually a little bit. What time is it? 9:04. Shoot, I got to wrap this up soon. The plan comes amid a broader battle between state and federal government leaders pushing for vaccine mandates to help counter the highly infectious Delta variant of the novel coronavirus, and workers who are against inoculation requirements, some objecting on religious grounds. Hochul said on a Sunday, Hochul attended the Sunday service at a large church in New York to ask Christians to help promote vaccines. Quote, this is the quote we just read, and also heard because we actually got to hear her say it firsthand. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other, end quote, Hochul said to congregants at the Christian Cultural Center in Brooklyn, according to an official transcript. Quote, Jesus taught us to love one another, and how do you show that love but to care for one another enough to say, please get the vaccine because I love you and want you to live. Now, of course, that's just absolutely ridiculous, right? There's tons of other ways that one could show their love, even if this disease was actually as bad as everyone says, and I don't actually think that it is. But nonetheless, obviously you can show your love to people by respecting their freedom and choice, for example. You can show your love to people by respecting their religious choices, even though you decide to disagree with it. You can show your love for people by visiting them in hospital. Show your love for people by supporting them, even though they do things which you don't approve of. Obviously, so long as it doesn't necessarily, go against your ethics or anything like that. There are tons and tons and tons of different ways that one could actually show their love, right, without in any way, shape, or form getting this vaccine. And in fact, I don't even know how one shows their love by getting a vaccine. That doesn't really make any sense to me personally. But, whatever. Obviously, I'm not the person who's important here. I am just some simple layman, and these are the great gods of the coronavirus that I am actually questioning. And really, I should just know my place, right? But at any rate. Quote, Jesus taught us to love one another. I just actually read that. Healthcare workers who are fired for refusing to get vaccinated will not be eligible for unemployment insurance unless they are able to provide a valid doctor-approved request for medical accommodation, Hochul's office said. It was not immediately clear how pending legal cases concerning religious exemptions would apply to the state's plan to move ahead and terminate unvaccinated healthcare workers. A federal judge in Albany temporarily ordered New York state officials to allow religious exemptions for the state-imposed vaccine mandate on healthcare workers, which was put in place by former Governor Andrew Cuomo and takes effect on Monday. That Monday, of course, would be already passed at this point. At least I believe. I believe it actually would have been the same Monday this was actually published, which would be the 27th. No, this was published on the 26th, so it would be the day after that. Teachers and staff to get vaccinated was temporarily blocked by U.S. Appeals Court just days before it was to take effect, and a hearing is set for Wednesday. That was yesterday, so I'm interested to know what actually happened there. I don't know, and so if anybody has information on that, please do let me know. Anyways, the highly transmissible Delta variant, has driven a surge in COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations in the United States that peaked in early September and has since fallen, according to a Reuters tally. Deaths, a lagging indicator, continue to rise, with the nation reporting about 2,000 lives lost on average a day for the past week, mostly in the unvaccinated, at least they say. While nationally cases are down about 25% from their autumn peak, rising new infections in New York have only recently leveled off, according to a Reuters tally. In an attempt to better protect the most vulnerable, the CDC on Friday backed a booster shot of the Pfizer-BioNTech, or PFEN, COVID-19 vaccine for Americans aged 65 and older, adults with underlying medical conditions, and adults in high-risk working and institutional settings. On Sunday, Dr. Rochelle Walensky fleshed out who should be eligible for the booster shots based on their work and high-risk setting. And we could kind of obviously, continue back and forth with this kind of stuff, but you guys do hopefully get the idea, right? The main purpose we wanted to actually talk about is the fact that they want to actually replace healthcare workers with soldiers, with actual soldiers, real soldiers, not fake soldiers, not somebody who is just temporarily coming in to scab. No, like actual military arm of the New York governor kind of soldiers is who they're actually planning on replacing the unvaccinated with. And again, even if they only did 10% narrowed down to the nearest 1,000, that would still be 7,000 troops, my friend. 7,000 troops is definitely enough to occupy a state like New York. I'll tell you that much. But let's go ahead and jump back here. So there is one last thing we want to talk about, and that is in Israel. I really, really do have to get out of here, though, because I am doing a show in about 20 minutes on my other channel. By the way, those of you who are interested in my apologetics channel, go ahead and go over to the synagogue right now. We will be live there in about 20 minutes. I may have to push it back ever so slightly, but about 20 minutes to discuss a literalist interpretation of Exodus 32. So that'll certainly be very interesting if you guys are interested. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and jump back here. What is going on here? All right. So, first things first, since we're not going to read the whole article, just wanted you to get the headline here. Al-Aqsa, thousands of Israeli settlers break into mosque over 1 week. During the 7-day Jewish holiday of Sukkot, nearly 3,600 settlers entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque, one of Islam's holiest sites. Now, of course, as you guys are firmly aware, I am definitely a supporter of the Jewish people. I am a Zionist, and I am one who sees the occupation, which is what it is, of the West Bank and occupation of the Temple Mount as illegal, as evil, as against the very will of God, who he himself decided that this land belonged to the Jews. 3,600 Jewish settlers essentially breaking into the mosque, right, is definitely not healthy for the region. It's definitely something that could lead to a lot of violence, definitely something that could lead to a lot of bloodshed. And Ra'am, who is actually part of Israel's current coalition under Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, Ra'am has said that Israeli flags on the Temple Mount is the crossing of a red line. What exactly do they mean by that? Who knows? It could be the disillusion of this incredibly fragile government that they have in Israel, and therefore a fifth election in a 3-year period, 2.5-year period, really. Excuse me. It could also mean that they think this is some level of fighting words. Ra'am is, after all, an Islamist party, not just a party that is actually advocating for Islamic rights, but an Islamist, meaning they want Islam to be the actual law in the land, party, right? So that totally could be what they mean. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is, over 3,600 activists of Jewish descent, of Israeli nationality, right, broke into the Al-Aqsa Mosque over Sukkot, and Ra'am is at least indicating that they think this could be fighting words. So let's go ahead and read the article here, and then we'll go ahead and end the show today. Jews reportedly brought Israeli flags to the Temple Mount, causing the Ra'am Islamic movement to say a red line has been crossed. This is from Jeremy Sharon of the Jerusalem Post staff, published on the 28th of September. And here's a picture of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Very beautiful building, but still has absolutely no business whatsoever being where it is. It's amazing that the third holiest site in Islam is built on the holiest site in the Jewish religion, and somehow everybody comes to the conclusion that it's the Jews who are wrong for wanting the land back, and not the Muslims for taking it, right? I've often made the comment, imagine if we had somebody blow up Kaaba in Mecca and then build a synagogue there and say, hey, this is our third holiest site. Sorry, you're not allowed to touch it. There'd be problems, right? There'd be problems. In May, tensions between Jews and Arabs surrounding Jerusalem boiled over when police clashed with Palestinian rioters at the Temple Mount and even entered Al-Aqsa Mosque, firing tear gas inside of the building. You guys may remember that because we talked about that a little bit here. Hamas used this incident as a proximate cause to fire rockets at Jerusalem, initiating the latest round of conflict between Israel and Gaza. Although the terrorist group had ulterior motives for igniting a conflict, Israeli Arabs took to the streets in protest against what happened in Al-Aqsa Mosque, leading to the worst Jewish-Arab intercommunal violence in 2 decades. And again, that's also something you should be aware of, because not only were we talking about that, but literally everybody was talking about that. That was just earlier this year. Although the High Court of Justice ruled that Jews have the right to pray at the site, which they do, it gave the police the authority to deny that right if they believe Jewish prayer would damage the security situation, which it does. So effectively, they did not actually give them the right. And this particular article ends there. It's a pretty short one, but the point there being that there are some very interesting things happening over on the the Temple Mount area. People are fighting. Violence is increasing. Jews are getting more and more bold in their ascending the mount and getting inside the mosque. And I don't think this will lead to any serious war, though I do think there will be violence. But I do think, and the reason I talk about this here today, is that I think this will eventually lead to some level of, quote, compromise that will effectively be everything that the Temple Mount movement has wanted. A parallel third temple built on the Temple Mount, side by side with, rather than on top of, the Dome of the Rock. And I think that'll probably lead to some level of internationalization of the old city as well. Why? Well, because the security situation is only going to get worse and worse and worse as time goes on. Eventually, it will spill over into violence. When it does, the Israeli government will have a decision to make. And frankly, I think they're going to want to maintain something similar to the status quo. But you can't maintain the status quo because that's what led to the violence. and you can't just take it over because the whole international world is going to hate you. So how do you maintain some level of the status quo that allows the world not to hate you? Well, by building a parallel temple, internationalizing the city, making peace with the custodians of the mosque, so on and so forth. So that's the end of our talk for today. Had some very interesting conversations, of course. I hope this was edifying to you guys and that you found it to be interesting. If you did, if you think this is important information, if you think your friends and family need to know this news, please like and share this video. Get this out to all of the different social media platforms which you frequent. Of course, what good is any message without an audience to hear it? I would also like to ask you to subscribe to this channel if you have not done so. If you like our content, we definitely do appreciate you subscribing. Obviously, that is one of the #1 things that you can do for us. So that is certainly something that would be appreciated there. Excuse me. If you are one who thinks that I am deserving of turning this into some kind of career, then I certainly would appreciate you helping contribute to the Patreon there. You can see it floating around at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and drop it into the live chat in case any of you guys are interested there. Please only do so if you feel that what I am doing is worth it. Only do so if you feel that what I am doing is important. Only do so if you feel that what I am doing is not going to inconvenience you in any way if you actually do contribute. And remember, the #1 thing that you can do for this channel, as far as the algorithm is concerned, is to watch as much of the video as possible. So those of you who did that, thank you very much, and I appreciate you greatly. And the #1 thing you can do for me personally is, of course, to say prayers. So keep me in your prayers. I very much appreciate those of you who have and do. And with that, we are going to go ahead and end the program for today. Actually, there's one last thing I want to say, and that is this. If you guys are interested in watching me discuss Exodus 32 and respond to Randall Rouser saying that basically a literalist cannot take Exodus 32 in a literal way and that it creates a problem for our exegesis and hermeneutics, certainly go over to the Unapologetics channel, the Synagogue channel, sorry, where I'll be hosting an Unapologetics. I'm going to drop a link in the live chat there. We'll be live in about 25 minutes. I pushed it back 15 minutes. But nonetheless, if you guys are interested in that, please do check that out. We'll be live here very shortly. And obviously, I know a lot of you guys are watching specifically for political reasons. You're not interested in the religious stuff. That's fine. But those who are, obviously, I want to give you the opportunity to watch there. I know most of the people who watch this, including all of the people who comment, actually watch both of my programs. So nonetheless. Those of you who will be there, I'll see you soon. Those of you who won't, thank you for watching this video. God bless you all. And I want to go ahead and ask you guys the question, remind you to be watchdogs and think like a Neanderthal, but ask you guys the question that is, in the face of Armageddon, will you compromise